We'll get going on the meeting. I'd like to welcome everyone, all the members of the Committee of Adjustment and anyone watching at home on Facebook. Welcome to our Committee of Adjustment meeting for Monday, March 8th. I'll ask the members of the committee, are there any disclosure of conflict of interest? Seeing none, I have a motion to accept the agenda. A motion moved by Councillor Madden, seconded by Councillor Noble, that the Council of the Township of North Glengarry accepts the Committee of Adjustment hearing agenda of Monday, March 8th, 2021. Are there any discussions on the agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion is carried. Okay, moving on to ratify the minutes. I have a motion moved by Deputy Mayor Williams, seconded by Councillor Madden, that the Council of the Township of North Glengarry accepts the Committee of Adjustment hearing minutes of Monday, November 23rd, 2020. Are there any questions on the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you. Okay, moving on to minor variances. We have MV 01-2021. I have a motion moved by Councillor Wensing, seconded by Councillor Manley. It is the recommendation of the Planning Department that the Committee of Adjustment approve minor variance application MV 01-2021 as submitted. Kasia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will share my PowerPoint presentation now. Okay, so we'll be seeing my screen now.
Yep.
The first minor variance of the night is MV 01-2021. The owner is Basima El Zahabi, the agent on the file is Ding Feng Li. The location of the subject lands is on Catherine Street West in Maxwell. The official plan designation is commercial district, and it is zoned village core area. So the purpose of the application is to seek relief from the zoning bylaw requirements within the stated section for a reduction in the required number of parking spaces from 10.5 parking spaces to 9 parking spaces, and for a reduction in required minimum lot area from 1,155 meters squared to 910 meters squared for the purpose of building a 7-unit apartment home.
Kasia, I can barely hear you.
Okay. I'm hearing some noises in the background, so
If I could ask everybody that's on this call to please turn off your microphones.
I'm still hearing some background noises, so if you could please mute. Thank you. Okay, so moving on, the subject land location in Maxville along Catherine Street West. So this is this part of the lands. And here is a zoom in. So it's the severed portion of consent application B12420. So right now there is some buildings and they will be demolished before the construction of the apartment dwelling. So the fourth test of the minor variance according to the Planning Act. So the Committee of Adjustment may approve a minor variance if the application complies with the fourth test. First test is, does it conform with the intent and purpose of the official plan? So the proposed application conforms with the OP. The commercial district permits the proposed use, an apartment dwelling. Does it comply with the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw? So as you will see on the slide, that there's a proposed reduction for the minimum lot area by 245 meters squared, and a reduction in the number of parking spaces by 1.5 parking spaces. So despite this relief, it is considered that the application still is in conjunction and purpose of the zoning bylaw. And there you go, in front of you is the proposed site plan. Keep in mind, this is very preliminary, just for the purpose of the minor variance. When the project goes to site plan control, everything will be much more detailed. So you will see at the bottom, we have Catherine Street West, the proposed building with 7 residential units. It is a 3-floor building. You have some proposed sidewalks here on the sides, some ramps, stairs, and then proposed landscaping. So whenever you see those circles, it's either a shrub or a tree. And then the number of parking spaces is shown by the numbers. So 1, 2, 3 through number 9. And then with the access, two-way access onto Catherine Street. The back of the land is proposed to be vacant, green space only. And so this is preliminary elevation. So this will be the front elevation, just black and white for now, Catherine Street West, and the rear elevation. And then likewise, you have the side left and right side elevations, south and north building elevations. So an important point that came up is to discuss the parking spaces on the retained land. So just to remind council of the severance. So the subject lands are here in red, and the retained lands is the other portion of the land which is not under discussion tonight. So if you look closely, the retained lands have 3 existing parking spaces. They will remain, they will not be affected. So just to keep that in mind, these parking spaces will not be lost due to this minor variance and consent application. Okay, so moving forward through the test. So is the application deemed suitable and desirable for the surrounding area? So the surrounding area consists of commercial uses and vacant lands to the north and south, vacant lands and a single detached dwelling to the west, and a commercial use to the east. The larger surrounding area consists of a mix of both residential and commercial uses. And the proposed building, as I said, is a 3-story building with 7 units. As I mentioned, the project will be subject to site plan development agreement. This would address the lighting, stormwater, sanitary servicing, water servicing, garbage, and landscaping. So planning staff is of the opinion that the applicant requested minor variance to the zoning bylaw can be considered minor in nature, desirable and appropriate, and it meets the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw and the objectives of the policies of the official plan. Minority test number 4 is the application minor in nature. The proposed relief from the zoning bylaw requirements will generate a minimal impact on the adjacent lands since it is commercial and residential lands, similar uses. Despite the reduction in the required lot area and the number of parking spaces. Thus, the minor variance can be considered minor in nature. Therefore, it is the recommendation of the planning department to approve minor variance MV01 2021 as submitted. Thank you.
You're muted, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. So we do have some members of the public on this call, but I will first ask members of council if they have any questions on this file. Councillor Manley, then Councillor Madden.
Yeah, maybe this doesn't have to deal too much with this, but I'm curious that you said there was two buildings currently on that property, Kasia. Is that correct?
Yeah,
or
there's a small shed and a larger shed at the back.
okay, so these are not actual buildings then. I'm just concerned about the demolition or whatever if it's
no, it's not residential or commercial buildings. No.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Madden.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Excuse me, Kasia, the north end of this property is going to be left vacant, it looks like, and it's
Yes.
a pretty decent envelope of land when you consider the setbacks. Is there any reason, or did the applicant give any reason that they are not using the north piece for parking and actually meeting the required number of parking spaces?
No, I did not receive any reasoning, but I believe the applicant and the owner is on the call, so they can definitely speak to this if there's any reasons.
Yeah, if you want that answered, I'm not sure. I have on this list Basama, Bing Feng, and Sunny. Just wondering, do any of you wish to speak to this?
I have one more question pertaining to parking.
Okay, well, if we could maybe get somebody that's going to answer before we
Okay.
go ahead, Deputy Mayor. Nobody seems to be speaking up. Go ahead.
Okay, just that it is a bit of a concern, the reduction in parking. There's already, there are already problems with on-street parking, particularly overnight during the winter. And my concern is that all you'd need to have is a guest with a car, or let's say a couple with 2 cars, and they would be forced to be parking on the street, which would cause significant problems for winter clearing, I would say.
Well, I guess my only answer to that part of it would be they would be ticketed. So I would imagine that they would have to figure that out. So on their own. But I see we have Sunny on. Maybe Sunny, do you have any answers to those questions?
Mr. Mayor, I see Mr. Feng is connecting to audio.
Yeah. Okay, Kasia, do you have any response to those questions that have been asked by the Deputy Mayor and by Councillor Madden?
For parking, certainly it's a reduction of 1.5 spaces. So it is a reduction. I would definitely say it's minor in nature. Parking could be accommodated somewhere else. They could rent parking nearby. There's certainly a lot of spaces for that. I do not have an answer for that vacant space, but it could be as part of site plan control. It could be managed in an interesting way. There could be amenity space and some requirements to organize that effectively.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Madden.
If we approve the number of parking spots now, then it's done, right? That's what we need to stick with. So it doesn't matter if it comes back in site plan control. Whatever we say now is what's going to pass, right? Or what's going to continue on. So to the Deputy Mayor's point, it is an interestingly tight spot in Maxville. We're anticipating Maxville is going to be busier, and there's available land there. I'd like to hear a reasonable reason for not actually meeting the required number when we have the space to do it, or they have the space to do it rather.
Okay. Mr. Feng, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So I think the first question is regarding the one portion of the land is not in use to maximize the land use for the building. Is that the first question? You guys are curious?
Yes, Councillor Madden, I think your first question was the back property. And I think that's kind of all part and parcel with the question for parking.
Yes.
So, okay. So I guess, yeah, go ahead.
So for this plan, Sonny, can you just give a suggestion? And also for the empty land that we didn't use, I think the Basma, who is owner, she has some reason that we leave that empty. So can you let her in? Basma is there? Basma is there?
I don't see her on the call anymore.
Okay, so Sonny is there?
I see Sunny.
Sonny, is Sonny there?
There he is.
Sonny?
Yeah.
So
Can you
can you just explain why we didn't move the parking lot to the left side of the building? My understanding is there is no enough traffic line that we can borrow from the Catherine Street, get into the back of the building to that empty area. So that's why we put this parking lot just in front of the Catherine, so that the people can get easy parking. So yeah, so Sonny, that is something I understand. Do you have any comments?
Yeah, as long as the owner is okay with removing the, if you look at the site plan again, there's a sidewalk on the side there at north part.
Okay, I'll share the screen with the permission of the mayor.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. Okay, so there it is.
Yeah, this area here, this can be removed and can be used as a laneway to go to the back, if that's okay with the owner. Although we lost probably one or two here, you could probably reorient or redesign it to accommodate. Plus, I heard a while ago that there will be a need for amenity area. So that will be depend how's the percentage and also the communal amenity area required for this property, for this site.
I didn't hear that. What is required?
It's about
Amenity,
landscape open space.
amenity space.
Okay.
So what will be the percentage of amenity space that we have to provide for this project?
It's usually
Yeah.
35%.
15%?
35.
Or 35%?
And also we have a 7.5 meters setback. If you look at the north of the property line, so there is a 7.5 meter setback there. So, and also from there coming to the front of the building for people to travel after park the car is probably that is too long. So I remember the owner has something that they're gonna do in future to put the other proposed building in that area. She should be here, but I don't know why she was not answering our call. But that's what I remember. She has a future plan to put something in that setback that on the north area. Yeah, that's my understanding why that place is empty. But you know, if by any chance, if that 9.5 parking lot is not really sufficient, we try to make another one or two more to that area that is empty right now. I think the major the first priority is still parking space that gonna be used for this building. So, but if because Catherine Street right now is not really busy street, so we think night parking on this lot with sometimes it's a peak time for people to park the car. They may just occasionally park the car right beside the Catherine Street for a moment. And also, you know, the existing parking lot on the east side of the proposed building, there are 2 or 3 cars parking there. So that parking area is not used for commercial, it's for the existing residential on the 2nd floor. So they don't need that much parking, that much the parking lot there. So we may just borrow existing 1 or 2 parking lot on the east side of proposed building to comply with the required parking lot as required.
Right.
Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, so this whole parking issue is of concern. There are actually 3 rental. I think there are 1, 2, 3, at least 4 apartments in the front part of that building that Basama also owns. It's where the former Debbie's Country Corner is. So commercial's on the bottom of one, then there's residential up top, And then the two units to the north are also rental. And I think there's 2 or 3 in the north one, and there's 1 in the middle. And so,
four units,
okay, you know,
four residential units and 1 commercial unit.
okay. So, you know, I think any on-street parking on Catherine Street is a non-starter. There are big McEwen's trucks that pass on that road. It's narrow to begin with. If people start parking on there, there's going to be serious problems. So my comfort level with the reduction of parking is right now is very low. I think we need to know that there's going to be adequate parking, not only for the existing residential, but also for the proposed. So personally, I'd like to see this application deferred until those questions can be answered.
We actually provided, I think about 1, 2, 3, 4 bicycle parking. Is that going to offset the missing parking?
Did you say bicycle?
Yeah,
We have here 1, 2, 3, 4. We're just going green. Just reduce the emission.
Do you know where Maxville is?
Yes.
It's a rural community. People drive, they don't cycle.
All right.
Is that Kasia part of something that they're asking for in this plan, or is that not?
So, Mr. Mayor, you can see the bicycle parking drawn in here, 1, 2, 3, 4 spots. There is 4 spots, and what Mr. Bing is saying is true. So our zoning bylaw is dated, as you know, and there is a tendency of reducing those parking requirements. So if the new comprehensive zoning bylaw were to be adopted today, those parking requirements would most likely be reduced by 10 to 15%.
But I do agree with the deputy mayor. I mean, it's a rural community and people tend to drive everywhere. So what about if we take away just for now the bicycle spaces? Would that give us the required parking?
Mr. Mayor, I don't know if you can see me. I've had my hand up.
No, I can't see. I can see you now when you spoke. Go ahead.
Okay. If I could just speak, the parking is less of an issue for me. I agree with what you said earlier. There's still available spaces where someone renting a building, if there isn't parking available at that building, they can arrange for parking elsewhere. If parking on the street is an issue, we should be addressing it with signage and making sure that people don't park where it isn't safe. And I like the idea that we're planning for the future, that there should be less cars. Not everyone owns a car, believe it or not. There are seniors who live in homes and apartments without cars. And if we can promote that residents are using bicycles, of course, it's better for the environment. I think there's still enough space nearby for parking elsewhere, because I like the site plan with the green space, and I think it's fine the way it is.
Okay, thank you. Can we take the screen down just so I can see everyone? Is there any further questions or comments on this minor variance? Councillor Madden.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just mention one more time, the north piece, obviously, if there's plans for the future, then it changes things, but you have enough space between the building and your property line to put a driveway on the west side of that building to get into that north space. Prevents you from having to make any changes at the east side of the building, and it allows you to leave what you now have as parking for green space or supplemental space, and much more attractive from Catherine Street. So that's just a little bit of an input to consider. That's my piece.
Kasia, is that a possibility?
Well, certainly the application will need to be deferred and then ask the applicant to redesign. That could be a possibility.
Okay, before we defer, we'd have to vote on a deferral. So are there any other members of the committee that wish to speak? Go ahead, Jacob, I see you come on.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we're talking deferral here, but correct me if I'm wrong, Kasia, but lot area reduction is part of a severance application, correct?
Yes, that's a condition.
Yes, so if
Yeah.
we defer the application, I would also check if we have any issues with the reduction in lot area, so we could at least pass the minor variance for that, so the severance application can still go through. We can look at the parking later. So I don't know if we can just change the wording on the resolution, but I just wanted to say we have to keep that in mind because this is also part of a severance application.
Okay, any other questions from members of the committee? I think I mean, if we're talking about 1.5 parking spaces, I know that a lot of these people that do live in these buildings don't have vehicles. So I would be fine with moving forward with the minor variance. I'm just looking for to see what the rest of the committee thinks at this point. Councillor Noble or Councillor Massey?
Well, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I think speaking, Councillor Wensing, I think mentioned it quite well. I think I'm okay with the bike spaces because eventually we'll get in the future with less cars in the needed. And I'm okay with the variance going through. Just maybe we can put a condition that they maybe replan for the parking situation. I'm okay with the building as is right now. I think it's a very big asset, new building to Maxville too. That's what we want, and we should try to encourage and not limit and put the blocks and wheels there. But as Jacob said, maybe we should go ahead with the variance, get that going, and then we can make a condition that future planning maybe addresses that loss of parking space or something.
Councillor Manley.
I'm okay with moving ahead with this tonight.
Okay. Okay, is there any further questions or comments before I call a vote? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion? 1, 2, 3, 4. All those opposed? I am in favor. The motion is carried. Okay, thank you. Moving on to MV02-2021. I have a motion moved by Councillor Manley, seconded by Councillor Wensing. It is a recommendation of the Planning Department that the Committee of Adjustment approve minor variance application MV02-2021 as submitted. Kasia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll show my screen once again. Okay. So this is the second application of the night, MV02-2021. The owner is Raymond and Janine Ratin. The location is 3494 Lakeshore Road in Alexandria. The official plan designation is rural district, and the lands are zoned rural. So I will do an informal quick presentation about the severance application that is attached to this minor variance application tonight. So this is what is proposed to be severed. So two lots, B1112 and B113. B1112 is 1.3 acres and B113 is 1.7 acres along Lakeshore Road West, and the retained lands are in blue. So I described the designation and zoning. So the relief tonight is for the frontage requirements from the zoning bylaw from 32 meters, from 45 meters to 32 meters. And the rest of the parameters do comply with the zoning bylaw. Yes, so as I described, the purpose of the application is for relief in the lot frontage requirements from 45 meters to 32 meters for the proposed lot creation as per the conditions of consent application B111220. In front of you have the subject lands along Lakeshore Road in Alexandria, high level. And then you have a close-up of the subject lands, which are, it's not a legal lot yet. It's part of a consent application, as I mentioned, B111220, 1.3 acres along Lakeshore Road. So I will be going through the 4 tests of the minor variance again. So number 1, does the application comply with the intent and purpose of the official plan? So the lands are designated rural district, and the rural district designation does permit residential uses as well as lot creation. Therefore, it does conform with the SCG County's official plan. Number 2, does the application comply with the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw? So there is only one variance as part of this application, a reduction in the lot frontage from 45 to 32 meters, a reduction of 12 meters. So despite this relief, the application does comply with the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. Number 3, is the application deemed suitable and desirable for the surrounding area? So here we have a couple of things to discuss. So first of all, the surrounding area is zoned rural in all directions. The land uses are as follows. To the north, we have vacant and rural residential uses. To the south, we have rural residential uses. East and west, we have vacant lands. So the lot that is proposed to be created is actually 250 meters south of 5 lots with a very similar shape and size along Lakeshore Road. So it's not a new phenomenon, this type of lot along Lakeshore Road, even though that most lots are larger. There is several existing ones in proximity to the lots that are being proposed. One issue that was raised by the public, which has been verified with the Raisin Region Conservation Authority, is the concern about water supply. So the RRCA confirmed that it's effectively not a concern. They conducted a study of the sub-watershed area and confirmed that local demands, even though it may cause a temporary drawdown within the sub-watershed, it's not an issue. And they concluded that 2 additional wells for these 2 consent applications are unlikely to cause a significant drop in the water table, given that the daily supply is over 1 million liters per day, and the typical residential water draw per day is 250 liters. So we have about 700 liters per day of additional water draw as per these 2 lot creations. A couple other things. So the lands are located near a slight curve along Lakeshore Road, and this is not a concern to the minor variance, as was verified with Public Works and Roads Department. As noted, this application is attached to a consent application. The consent application was accepted and passed the review at the SDG counties, despite the minor variance being a condition of the consent application. And the requested minor variance can be considered minor in nature, desirable and appropriate, and meets the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw and objectives of the policies of the official plan. Finally, test number 4 is the minor variance minor in nature. So the proposed relief zoning bylaw requirements will generate a minimal impact on the adjacent lands and dwellings, despite the reduction in the required lot frontage for lot creation. Thus, it can be considered minor in nature. Therefore, it is the recommendation of the planning department that this application be approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Kasia. Okay, so we do have, I believe, some people that have called in on this one, so I'll ask those afterwards. Are there any questions or comments from the members of the Committee of Adjustment? Seeing none. Are there any comments from Nicole, Jose, or Denis?
I've got quite a few.
Okay, perfect. Welcome, Nicole.
I'm not, can you hear me still? Or?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So I have a couple, some of my questions pertain to both minor variance applications, this one as well as the second one that's to be addressed following this one. A couple concerns, speaking on behalf of a few residents that I don't think are on this call. We do reside on Lakeshore Road. First one being, what's the minimum length of time that a public notice needs to be made to inform the public of a hearing?
Kasia?
10 days.
Sorry?
10 days, but per the Planning Act.
10 days for the Planning Act. So the public notice was not put on the subject lands until March 4th, which wouldn't give us 10 days. And there was no notice posted in the Glengarry News or on the township website informing anybody of the meeting. Can that be confirmed?
Kasia or Jacob?
Yes, so when the notice was posted, it was actually posted 1 kilometer to the north, Dubai Air. That's where the Google Maps took me. I did go last Wednesday and posted it on the correct location. And it was circulated to all the agencies as per the requirements of the Planning Act. So they did comment. Those are the 2 requirements that were satisfied. One was an error, an honest error.
And did it appear on our website or on in the Glengarry News?
No, it did not.
Okay. You want to go ahead with your other issues?
Well, so I guess adding to that then, unless anybody along the road or anybody, any member of the public drove by the subject lands starting March 4th, they would have never known about this public hearing.
Okay.
So I take issue with that.
I guess if I can just ask you what, Nicole, just, the committee can discuss in talking about the notification, but if you can go ahead with why you don't agree with the
with the minor variance application?
That would be great.
Alrighty. Okay, first one being, it's the relief. It's the relief that they're looking for the minimum lot frontage of 45 meters. They're proposing a 32 meter wide lot, they're looking for a relief of 13 meters. Yes, the proposed lots are similar to the lots in the area in terms of size. When we talk, acreage, 1.3, 1.7, 1.5, 2.6. But all the lots to the north of this proposed lot and the subsequent minor variance are all a minimum of 45 meters lot frontage, according to the Ontario Land Act when we looked up when we did that research. So that's my one point with regards to the frontage. The second, with regards to the comments made about the Raisin River Conservation Authority and the water draw, I don't know much about that, but when did that happen? And why is there no report attached to this agenda with regards to the findings of the Raisin River Conservation Authority?
Well, certainly, there's a public record. Any public can request those comments, and I'm happy to send it. But it was commented as part of the consent application in December.
Okay, so my question is, how come that's not attached, like appended to this agenda then? So that we could see it, like instead of having to go through you or the public office to ask to obtain that, why wasn't it attached to this agenda?
It is part of the staff report and it is the truth. So I wouldn't include items that are not contrary to anything that was stated. So it can be asked to have the full report if you like.
Okay, but wouldn't that, okay, I'll move on to my next question. So, and then in terms of the lands being located in a slight curve, I'm sure we're all well aware, Lakeshore Road is an assumed 80 km/h gravel dirt road. And the traffic volume is obviously quite heavy, but even more so now in these COVID times with regards to the Lakeshore Nature Trails being 1.5 kilometers from the subject lands. You've indicated that it's not a concern as per the Public Works and Roads Department. Are you able to discuss what the Public Works Department or the Roads Department, what their observations were with regards to that comment?
It was just a brief comment that the angle of the curve is not of concern for the lot creation in that specific location based on the road width and the road speed. That's all.
Okay, so was there a report generated in that regard from the Public Works Department or the Roads
There was no report. It was just a verbal check-in between staff.
Okay, and the staff are well qualified to make those observations and calculations, I'm assuming?
Yes, they have 25 years experience.
Okay. Okay, and then I guess moving on to the proposed reliefs being generating minimal impact to the adjacent lands and dwellings, despite the lot frontage. how do you come to that conclusion that there'd be minimal impact on the adjacent landowners and homeowners?
So that final conclusion is based on everything else in the report. So based on the commenting agencies, the analysis, based on the comments that I received from other staff, it's just a final conclusion that there is nothing of major concern that would prevent it from being bad land use planning.
Okay, is there somebody from the roads department on this call that can speak to that curve in Lakeshore Road?
I don't, I don't believe Mike is on the call tonight. Dean?
Yes. Good evening, Mr. Mayor. I did go out with Mike and we did look at that corner and he didn't have any concerns. It was on the outside edge of it, so he didn't feel any concerns at all.
Go ahead, Nicole.
No, and I guess that's it. And for this one, most of this will be repetitive in the next motion.
Okay, and are there any other people on the call that wish to speak at this point? Jose.
Yes, I'm hello?
Yep, can hear you.
Can you see me? Okay. So yeah, we bought the property north of the subject lands. We have civic number 3396. We bought there a year and a half ago to build because we thought it would be a quiet neighborhood with no neighbors nearby. It's a beautiful area. So we applied to purchase the road allowance at the back to make sure that no one would make use of it there. And it has been over a year since that application was made. You can check the minutes for the council meeting on February 19th. We're still waiting because Mr. and Madame Racine bargained to get the corner piece at the road to give them more frontage to allow for a building lot. That's what we were told, one building lot. And then it evolved to 2 building lots. And now they're wanting 20 meters for a 3rd driveway to access the land at the back. So we're talking about 3 driveways within 84 meters. Plus the south side neighbors, which is right on the boundaries, have their driveway right there, right on the boundary, on the side there. So that's 4 driveways in a curve. I know it was mentioned that it's not a problem, but with all the school buses going by and people walking, I feel that it is a problem. I don't know if that was assessed or not, but to me it is a problem. And we were under the impression that they would have used that section of the road allowance to create 2 decent sized lots at 42 meters each. But now with their request to make a driveway to the back, if this is approved at 32 meters of frontage, we're setting trend for more narrow lots throughout Glengarry. And is this really what the residents want for Lakeshore Road, where the Glengarry trails are? People go kayaking, fishing, they walk down there all the time. It's going to create really high traffic. And why create 2 narrow lots when they own this much land? Like, have you looked at the attachment? This paper here, They own all of that in the blue. Like, how many more of these small lots are they going to create down the road? All the houses are going to be piled up one on top of the other. And my other question is, what's their intention for having a driveway to access the property at the back of ours, unless they want to sever more lots back there? Is it going to become a subdivision? Like, what's their plan with that? It's a big concern to me. They could just use that 20 meters and to make 2 wider lots.
Okay, Jacob, you want to comment?
Yes, yeah, well, I just want to comment for the future use of the driveway. So the Racine just want to keep an access there. They didn't even apply for an entrance yet. They just want to have the roadway as discussed for future considerations, and the future considerations are not to create new lots. Right now it's just 2 because I believe it's kind of the minimum they can split up there before they have to go through any other more complicated planning applications. So this driveway is really just for personal use to access their land, because as it was shown by Jose there, they own all the land behind and everything. So it's really just for now for their own use, but they haven't applied for a driveway yet or for an entrance. And if they do, it will be evaluated by the roads department, just like these driveways were when the applications came through. So I just wanted to clarify on the use for that future space there.
Okay, thank you, Jacob. Go ahead, Jose, do you have more?
Yeah, why do they need access through the front when they have access through the back? They have enough room at the back of the properties to access it through the back. Couldn't they use that front piece to make wider lots there? It would bring them to 42 meters each.
Jacob?
Yeah, why they want to have the entrance there is really their own personal demand. It's their land. They can access their land wherever they please. That's why they want to keep that entrance there. Why they don't put the entrance elsewhere, I don't know. It's probably just because they want it there. They want to have it there. But yeah, that's pretty much all I can answer for now. It's their land. That's where they want to have future access. It's not even an access for now. So anyway, it's just for their own personal decision.
Okay, so why are procedures already underway and the dimensions already sent out for severance to the surveyor before this variance is even approved?
That is part of the conditions of the consent applications. The applicant, after the notice of the decision, they can start working on all the conditions, including the survey, without waiting for the minor variance. That is their own risk. They might spend the money without the minor variance being approved. So they have the right to do that.
Right.
And further to what Cassia said, that this is a similar size lot to other lots on the road. There's no other lots on the road that are 32 meters wide. Our lot is 600 feet wide, and the neighbor across the street, they're at 500 feet wide or something. This is ridiculously small. And I don't see how houses can just be built. They're going to be piled up on each other.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, there might be a point here. You know, I think we do need to be careful about setting precedents on ever shrinking frontages and getting narrow lots when, you know, in rural areas where there is actually space to have decent sized lots. What is a standard lot size or front, like the frontage is normally, what is it again, Kasia?
45 meters as per the zoning bylaw. They can be 40 to 45, the other similar lots to the north of the property.
Okay, and that's across North Glengarry. It's not sort of rural versus urban or anything like that?
That's across North Glengarry.
Yeah, that's rural because urban have smaller lot frontages for sure.
Do they?
Yeah, you can have 20, I think 30 feet for a lot frontage in the urban part of town. So it's a little bit different than the rural section, right, Jacob?
Yeah. This is a requirement, particularly for the rural zones lots. If you go in ag, they may, I believe,
75 meters.
Yeah, 45 meters, and then if you go like for an R1, it's a lot smaller. Yeah, it's only 15 meters actually. So it really depends on the zone, on the zoning designation of your property. Yeah.
Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, so I'm just curious about, you know, for the owners to be able to squeeze in another lot there, and us, you know, allowing for the smaller frontage. I'm just not sure what the rationale is for that.
Okay. Are there any further?
Jacob, Kasia? I'm looking for a rationale.
Like Jacob said, it is their choice where they chose to sever it. There is no really a rationale for putting it there versus another section of the road. That's their choice.
It's basically, it's their land, Karma, so they have a right to ask for a minor variance to do these kinds of things. I don't think there's any planning rationales behind it. That it gives them the right to, that's why we have this committee, is for them to come forward and put plans forward that they hope that they could proceed on. But again, it's up to us to make that decision. Are there any further questions or comments from members of the committee? Yep, Councillor Massey.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. On Mr. Jose's point there, I remember last year at I think it was February or March, we did post like a tender out there if anybody was interested in that land, Jacob. And you remember everything was I guess suspended for COVID, and I believe we had awarded that old piece of land to Jose.
I think Jacob might have an answer, Jake.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jacques. So as part of my report, it is a standard procedure that when someone wants to acquire land like a road allowance from the municipality has to advertise it to all the adjacent neighbors. So in this case, the adjacent neighbors were Denis and Jose on the east side, and the only other adjacent neighbor was Madame Racine on the west side. So it was advertised to her that the municipality was in an agreement to sell the land, and that's why this whole process came through. And yes, it did take time. There was delays for COVID and everything, but all the answers are hard to get from from the counties and whatnot. So when I informed the west neighbor, Madame Racine, that this was going on, they were also interested in buying the land, and Madame Racine told me that, again, it's just hearsay from Madame Racine. I trust her very much, but years ago she already had tried to purchase that land, and she was told no by the municipality. So that's why she does not have an issue at all if the municipality sells most of it to Denis and Jose, but she just asked that we consider that entrance way there, and there's a little part of that road allowance that will also be merged to her property, which will be probably discussed on the next minor variance just after. But yeah, that's the whole, it was part of the normal standard practice that it was also advertised to the neighbor. Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, a follow-up to that, Jacob, is so you're telling me now if Denis and Jose, if we award them this land, does that impact these minor variance motions? Are they on this land that we are awarding it to, or?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. Yeah. So right now the municipality still owns the land. I have the resolution, which was done by council, I think late last year, that council was okay if we sell the land. Now, what I'm trying to achieve is with the severance and with this minor variance and with the splitting of that road allowance, we're all trying to do that at the same time. So if the minor variance, well, should it pass this evening, and then another condition is that the Racines acquire that little part of our road allowance for their next severance that we're going to see right after. So it's a bit complicated. It's a whole merging of all the applications together. But right now we still own the road allowance at this point today. It's still the municipality's property.
Okay. So have a follow-up question.
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Mayor. So to come to the point of Mrs. Palmer, I think point that the sign was by a human error put at the wrong place and stuff like that. Can we not defer this thing? Can we not maybe award the land or split the land that we own first, and then we can go from there? Because it seems like it's awfully complicated to be, anyways. Can we not that be deferred? Those.
I don't think each one matters to the other of when they're done. But to Nicole's question and to Councillor Massey's question, is there an issue with our notification period by not posting it at the proper location? Who wants to go ahead?
So as I said, it was posted 1 kilometer to the south of the subject lands by error, and I posted it on March 4th. So it's 5 to 6 days notification period for the sign.
But is it not an issue when you have to post it for 10 days? Councillor Massey, can you shut your microphone? It's causing background on. Thank you.
No.
Thank you. If we could, is that a problem for notification if say this went to the LPAT board?
That will be a problem.
Pardon?
It will be a problem at LPAT.
Okay. So I think we have no choice at this point but to defer this. I'm just looking for members of council to jump in on this. Councillor Manley?
Yeah, if we're in a situation where we haven't given proper notice, then I believe we should defer this so that we have proper notice on this, and then we can move forward on it or whatever.
Is everyone okay with a deferral? I just want Madame Goulet and Ms. Palmer just to realize though that this isn't a council saying that we aren't going to go forward with this, but we need to do it right. So we will do it right. I think, maybe there are some questions that have been asked. So perhaps we can get some answers to those questions so that council's comfortable with either denying or moving forward with the minor variances. Everyone okay with that?
Yeah.
I'll call for a vote on deferral. All those in favor of deferral? Motion is carried, so the motion is deferred. And I'm assuming that we will be deferring the second application on here, Kasia?
It is effectively the same type of application and the same case scenario there, error of 1 kilometer down the road. So I would say so.
Okay, so to all members, I'm asking, are you in favor of deferral? Okay, motion is carried, and we will come back to that, and perhaps maybe council can get some more information in the coming weeks until the next committee of adjustment. So, okay, thank you, and that is it for the committee of adjustment. I have a motion moved by Councillor Noble, seconded by Councillor Madden. There being no further business to discuss, the committee of adjustment hearing was adjourned at 6:57 p.m. All those in favor? Motion is carried. And we are going to go quickly right into our public meeting of planning. Are there any disclosure of conflict of interest? Seeing none, motion to accept the agenda. I have a motion moved by Councillor Madden, seconded by Councillor Noble, that the Council of the Township of North Glengarry accepts the public meeting agenda of Monday, March 8th, 2021. Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion is carried. There are no minutes to be approved at this time. And we are going first with zoning amendment Z05 2021. Welcome, Kasia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the meeting for Z05 2021, I will share my screen. Okay, so first of all, just to outline the public meeting process for tonight, since we have many members of the public speaking. First, I will present the proposed application. Then there will be opportunity for public comments. So those wishing to speak will speak to the proposed amendment. And then the chair may direct questions to the applicant or staff. So the owner of the subject lands is Eve Ballenegger. The property location is at 20845 McCormick Road in Alexandria. The lands are designated agricultural resource lands. And the zoning is special exception general agriculture 125. And the purpose of the application is to permit a total of 8 Mongolian yurts, pens for rental purposes on the subject lands by adding a special exception to the existing special exception. The owner of the subject lands is proposing to rent up to 5 yurts in the near future and is applying for an additional 3 yurts as part of the long-term project. And this will be the maximum number of permitted yurts at all times. So a little bit of a background for the subject lands. So they have an area of 7.5 acres, 3.05 hectares, with a direct access on McCormick Road. The lands were already rezoned in 2019 to permit the following uses: a professional wood workshop, a mechanical workshop, storage, as well as a bed and breakfast accommodation within the existing yurt at the subject lands. So high level zoom in on the lands located at McCormick Road near Alexandria. And a close-up of the subject lands, 7.5 acres. And this is a dated air photo, but you can see the single existing yurt at the location in front of you. Okay, so this is the applicant's sketch for the proposed project. So there's many things going on here, but I will outline the most important items. So the proposed yurt locations are outlined with red circles. So number 1, 2, 3, and this is number 5 and number 4. And the proposed pile for privacy screening, and a proposed swim pond, which did receive SDG grants, I believe. And the rest of it is what is existing on the land. So you have the existing barn with the workshop inside and the garage and the single detached dwelling. We may come back to this to definitely discuss it. Okay, so the provincial policy statement. So Section 3 of the Planning Act requires that all decisions are made, they be consistent with the provincial policy statement. And the following is a quick evaluation for the proposed development. So as submitted, the proposed zoning amendment for 8 yurts for rental purposes is not consistent with the PPS. The proposed number of yurts would need to be significantly reduced. And the MDS separation setback would also need to be considered from the adjacent dairy barn to the west. SDG County's official plan. So the uses that are permitted in all designations within SDG County's official plan include accessory uses to the main use, including bed and breakfast establishments. Therefore, the proposed use conforms with the official plan. Discussion. So this is just a preliminary list of items that will need to be considered and be required if the zoning amendment were to be approved in the future. So the first 6 conditions pertain to the Ontario Building Code. These are the same conditions that were required as part of the zoning amendment 2019. So the location of the subject lands, a limit on cooking devices, no plumbing fixtures, no cooking facilities, and the setbacks from other buildings on the lands, as well as a limit on the yurt size itself to 40 square meters maximum. The rest of the conditions pertain to more the planning aspect. So the septic system would have to be also upgraded to accommodate the maximum number of guests. And privacy screening would need to be provided, as well as a fence. And finally, the 11 p.m. quiet hour would need to be respected at all times. So public response, there was an overwhelming negative public response for this zoning amendment. I received 5 messages and letter in opposition, and all these messages were forwarded to council as they came in. I also received 2 phone calls in opposition. I did not receive any neutral or positive comments from the public. Thank you.
Thank you, Kesha, for your report. I have several members of the public online here. I would first like to start with questions from members of council. And I'll, if you have anything just off the top of your head, and then we'll move to public discussion. Are there any questions at this point? Councillor Madden.
One quick one. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Jacob, do each of these yurts need a building permit to be put up, or because they're tents, they don't need building permits?
Yeah, no, each of them will require a building permit, but I will have to review. As you know, Councillor Madden, tents are a gray zone in the building code, so I will definitely have to review that. But I can tell you that though we are considering them as tents or temporary building, because the yurts, although they're all great and warm and whatnot, they are not compliant with the Ontario Building Code for residential use. So we are considering them as temporary structures, and whether or not they require a building permit under the Building Code Act being used as a tent, I will have to confirm that, but I believe they will, each of the yurts will have its own building permit. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions or discussion before I go to public comments? Okay, seeing none. Are there any members of the public that wish to speak in favor or against the proposed minor variance? Maybe if you could just turn on your camera, and I will know that you want to speak.
Hello?
No. McPherson, did you want to speak to this?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Our video won't show. It says the hostess has stopped or is not permitting us to.
Okay, Sarah. There we go.
Okay, thank you.
So I'd like to notify that we have hired a rural land planning expert who has provided the township with a letter on behalf with recommendation that recommends they either deny or at least defer. We are very opposed to this since it's right on our property line. It is extremely concerning for the safety of our family, animals, with a number of strangers right next door in our backyard, partying, consuming alcohol, recreational drugs, right next to farm, which is dangerous for people who don't know the risks. We are in fear of possible damages to our buildings, and our machinery shed is right on the line, which would be with expensive equipment in it, loss of privacy, putting our livelihood in jeopardy with fires, just, you know, campfires out of control, or people drunk, not burn the building, burn our crops. We have also a fear for the property value of our property. Who would buy a property right next to a campsite? I don't know if any of you, I would not. Increase amount of traffic. If you ever been on McCormick Road with as many as rural tractors, farm equipment, it is a very busy road for this type of agricultural use.
And it's already a quite dangerous road with the speed limit and the big hill right on our, like, that we're on.
Already many close incidents
accidents
could have happened. I also would like to point out that we have interest, and he had planted trees next door, and that a few weeks later he asked me, or weeks later he asked me what type of bug this was. It was eating all his trees. A few days later, it's in my garden, took away my crops for the season. It was a cucumber beetle. And then it's been 20 years we've had our garden there, never a problem, never concerns with this. Later that summer, he asked us, he had an invasion of moth in his yurts, I presume, asked if we could help or if we had any idea how to get rid of moth. And then I was thinking, he's importing from Mongolia. What other insects could be potentially in our rural farming agricultural land that he is surrounded by? What if there is something that comes out of this?
The main problem is that you're inviting a bunch of strangers to stay in a very small location where they have no activities to do. It's 7.5 acres and he's not using the entire front of that property. And you don't know strangers' intentions or how they're going to act.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. Are there any other? I believe Duncan Ferguson wanted to speak. Duncan?
Yes, I'm here. I'm not sure if you can hear me, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, we can hear you and we can see you. Welcome.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm speaking on behalf of the Glengarry Federation of Agriculture here tonight. We were approached by one of our members with concerns with regards to this zoning amendment. We sent the application as well as the staff report over to our head office in Guelph, who in turn submitted it for review with OMAFRA. Both experts came back with the same conclusion and same concerns. Primarily, and this deals with the initial staff report that we received on Friday morning and the lack of considerations given to MDS. I see that Kosh has put that in her report here this evening, and we are happy to see that considerations for MDS will be considered in the future. But we wanted to reiterate here tonight that although an MDS1 would not likely have been required initially when this property was severed, with the new intended use of the property here, we definitely feel that an MDS1 is warranted. Further to that, the staff report was vague on the number of yurts that would be allowed on the property, and we have concerns with whether this is in keeping with the permitted use for a property zone general agricultural. We'd like to see more detail on that. A more precise recommendation made by staff and the logic for such recommendations set out for review. That's the gist of our comments. We've also read and reviewed Mr. McPherson's submission to you tonight and the planner that he hired, their report. We are in agreement with said report and fully support his submission that he made in writing to you.
Okay, thank you, Duncan. Appreciate it. I see Mr. Vanderbilt is on. Welcome, Henry. Oh, we can't hear you, Henry. You'll have to unmute your mic.
How's that?
There we go.
There we go. Okay. Thank you very much. I guess I'm going to be speaking against this amendment. This piece of land is right in agricultural community. I'll concur with Rose McPherson when she referred to it as an upcoming campground. And I don't believe that this is the location for this type of campground. There's other locations within North Glengarry that are much more suitable for this. There's even locations within the town of Alexandria. I just see problems being created by allowing anything further to go towards setting up these yurts. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Are there any further? I see the Yves Massy. Did you want to make or Chantal Montpetit, did you either of you want to make comments?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, welcome, Yves.
Okay. I'd like to know, are the rules different between a bed and breakfast and a camping? Are the rules different from one to the other?
Kasia or Jacob?
Yeah, maybe I can answer that. Yes, for yeah, there's many differences. So a bed and breakfast can basically be done in any residential house, in any residential property where you rent your property to someone for him to come and live in. So for that, you normally don't have to I guess evaluate anything from lighting to septic system to noise to whatnot. You're just permitted to rent your house as is. When we're talking about a campground, and this is why we're trying to we're not considering this as a campground basically, because it's no longer just a tourist attraction. It's really an official campground where everything from like garbage, lighting, septic system, electricity, servicing, laundry, washroom facilities, they all have to be evaluated. So it's very, very different, definitely. Yes. Yeah. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Kasia, but if the owner wanted to have a campground there, he would need an OP amendment. So we're not considering this as a campground. It's really just a tourist attraction for now. Yeah.
Yes, that's correct, Jacob. So when you're on OPA and it wouldn't pass, it wouldn't conform to the SDG official plan. It would not be even contemplated.
Okay, thank you. Yves, do you have any further comments?
Yes, I've noticed on the plan, it shows a bar, kitchen bar, and it's only on the plan, but nowhere else in the literature of all this, it shows anything about the bar, and that is a big concern. I want to know how to address this on your part.
Is this part of the application, Jacob or Kasia?
No, I have not spoken to the applicant about the bar. I think it's more like long-term. It's not part of the zoning amendment, and definitely if there was a bar that was proposed, it would be considered and described. So it's more kind of like dreaming in the future, not part of this amendment.
Okay. Yves?
I also have another concern, and that all came up while looking through all this documentation. I don't know if some of you remember the drought out west a few years ago. The East was selling hay out west, and they needed to fumigate the hay to prevent pests brought over out west. And my question is to Yves, is the material from the yurts, because I understand it's all natural, is it being fumigated to prevent the importation of any pest or whatnot?
Maybe I'll get Mr. Ballinager at the end of this to comment on some of those questions, if that's okay.
Yeah, it's good. And another concern, of course, pertaining to the bar, there's been a deadly accident on our road on my property years back, obviously because of drinking. So the idea is great, but in my opinion, the location, especially concerning to the McPherson family, it's so close, so that bugs me a bit. So I think it's a real concern.
Okay, thank you for your comments, Yves. Are there any further comments in favor or against that wish to speak at this time that has not spoken? Or sorry, do you have something you'd like to say? Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want a bit of clarification. So
Sure.
when we first started, I think it was Jacob said that they're considered tents, not residential buildings, something like that. But in order to be a bed and breakfast, you also mentioned that you're renting out a residential building. So what is it then? Is it a residential building or is it a tent? Because if it's a tent, it sounds more like a camp. Like, we don't know what this gray area is. I think it needs to be more defined.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. That's why I mentioned, sorry, to Councillor Madden, that we'll have definitely to check into permits. One thing though, I guess in this case, the property would be defined as a bed and breakfast because the building, like, we're not permitting each year to have a bathroom and a kitchen. So if you don't have that right off the bat, you cannot be a bed and breakfast by itself. Like, the yurt cannot be a bed and breakfast by itself. So the term bed and breakfast, I think council knows that it's really gray. We've had issues with that in the past. It's really hard to interpret, and it's really a question, yeah, of how we're gonna try to control basically what's in the yurts. And for us, that's why the building permit is a good idea, because we're allowed inside the yurt to ensure that there's no bathroom facilities and kitchen. So for now, that's the best answer I can give you, but definitely a little bit of a gray zone for sure. Yeah.
Also, I noticed in the report it says provincial policy statements, and the ones that were outlined was having to do with, in prime agricultural areas, permitted uses and activities are agricultural uses, agricultural related uses, and on-farm diversified uses. Now my question is, how does his use qualify as either agricultural related uses or on-farm diversified uses? Like, when he's not a farm, it's not located on a farm, so it can't be an on-farm diversified use, which is what you have. Agritourism and bed and breakfast would fall under on-farm diversified use, right? Like, I don't understand what this is being qualified as.
So the lands are designated agricultural resource lands, and they are in the agricultural setting surrounded by farms. That is why it would be classified as an on-farm diversified use.
So
why does he get an agritourism designation?
Okay, is there Mr. Ballinager, did you wish to speak at this point?
Sure. I'd welcome any other comments or questions maybe before addressing them as a whole.
Sure. Are there any other comments in favor or against this proposal?
Mr. Mayor, there are two people who have their hands up.
Go ahead. Go ahead then. No? I can't see anybody else.
Yes, good evening. It's Pauline Hamilton. I do have my hand raised.
Oh, sorry, I can't see it. Go ahead, Pauline.
Yeah, I know it's listed as Bob. He hasn't changed his voice hasn't changed that much.
Okay.
So I do have, a few concerns about this proposed amendment, but I'm looking for clarification on bed and breakfast. I noticed that the amendment that passed in 2019, the owner of the property, he does have permission for one yurt bed and breakfast. So I'm just trying to get clarification on, is the bed and breakfast in the house, in the dwelling, or is it in the yurt? Because he does have permission for one yurt and it's listed bed and breakfast.
It's within the yurt, the rental bed and breakfast.
It just says here, specified permission for one yurt being rented as bed and breakfast. So again, what is the clarification for bed and breakfast? You know, if you're going to, in long term, if you're going to have 8 yurts on this property, it is no longer bed and breakfast. It is a campground.
Yeah, maybe I can answer part of that, Mr. Mayor. We agree that we were a little bit caught off guard with this. With this, when we passed the first zoning amendment for Mr. Bellenegger there, it was really a question of trying to consider this as a tourist attraction, like some place where someone can go and sleep in the yurt for an experience. The term bed and breakfast, I agree, sounds like they're all separate units, like exactly like a, not really a campground, because a campground is definitely not a bed and breakfast, but more like a resort of some kind. And I guess the key idea here would be that there's no actual cooking and bathroom facilities in each yurt. So where I'm going with this is that we never actually received complaints before this whole application came through, and that's why we kind of use the same wording, I guess I can say. But definitely, yeah, it's something we can address, the actual wording that we want to use. Yeah, it's definitely something we can check into. Yeah.
So, Jacob, what is your definition then of a campground? What is the explanation for a campground? Because when I look at the plan here, I see 8 yurts, I see toilet and shower facilities, I see a kitchen/bar, I see a swim pond. To me, that is not a bed and breakfast. That is a campground.
Yeah, I agree. There's
I'd just like to know what your definition of a campground is.
Yeah, I'm not to be honest with you, I'm not an expert on campgrounds. I believe though that if you want to have again, I'm not sure, but some of the campgrounds I know, like they have like where they accept some recreational vehicles and stuff. The buildings have to be CSA approved or stuff like that, and then they each can connect to hydro, and they each can use the same share, I guess, the same septic system. So that's where it's hard to differentiate. Yeah, and to answer your question, I'm not 100% sure how to describe what's the difference between a campground, a multiple bed and breakfast, or this. It's pretty new. The yurt thing is actually new in the entire country, I believe. Maybe Eve can talk to that. So I'm not sure exactly how to answer your question. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
Can Eve explain? Could Eve explain?
Yeah, well, we'll ask him to explain what he'll have his chance to speak in a few minutes.
I do have another question though, Jamie.
Go ahead.
I noticed going back to the 2019 amendment, he does have permission for the 1 yurt. And it is my understanding that he has 4 existing yurts on the premises right now. Could you explain to me why bylaw or building inspectors have not been there enforcing compliance of the amendment of 2019?
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. Again, I'll repeat, we were a little bit caught off guard with all this resistance. So the original zoning amendment states that he's allowed to have, I believe the actual wording is allowed to have 1 yurt to be used as bed and breakfast. So that was the one that someone can go in, sleep, and have the experience. In between, Eve asked us if he could have some to work on to show as display and to whatnot. And the actual original zoning bylaw did not really prevent that black on white. So we kind of agreed to it, and maybe that's our fault. So that's why we didn't enforce anything, because it was kind of a misunderstanding or a gray zone on the original zoning application, which was approved, and we never received a complaint about that before this new application came in. So that's why there's 4. Yeah.
Well, I'm just trying to figure out, so if he had put 15 to 20 for demonstrations, for quality control, that would have been okay also. I'm just trying to figure out, as a resident for over 20 years of the township of North Glengarry, we've always had to comply with the rules. That's the way it is. And it seems that this gentleman is able to not have to comply with the rules. You know, he has a permit for 1 yurt and he has 4 existing buildings there. So I'm just, you know, it's.
I think definitely your point is well taken, and I think there needs to be a management issue here on what's going on. So you know, definitely we'll be having some discussions in the morning in regards to this. So
I really hope that, you know, the council has to understand that this type of business is a total incompatibility with their neighbors. You're talking about prime agricultural land surrounding this property, and this is not the place for that type of business. I'm strongly opposed to that type of business being in that area. Like I said, maybe the idea is okay, but not for that spot.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Is there, Lynn, did you want to speak?
Yes, I would like to speak. Can you hear me well now?
Yes, I can. Go ahead.
Yes, our family owns the farms just across from Mr. Ballenegger, and we've been farming for over 100 years. The land is agriculture. There's a sugar bush. It's been our main income for the last 100 years in our families, and we are completely opposed to the development. We see the tractors, we see the combines, we see the machinery on the roads from, you know, spring till fall, and there's already been many accidents in, you know, there's been a deadly accident up that hill just, you know, less than a kilometer from Mr. Ballenegger's place. So we are totally not in agreement with the amendment. This is a rural area. This is an agricultural zone, and we would like to preserve it as agricultural. There are beautiful areas in North Glengarry, and I'm sure we could find a really nice spot for something like this. But what we do for a living here is agriculture, and this has nothing to do with agriculture. So, I mean, and the bar with the machinery, with the with every activity that goes on here from April till late November could be extremely dangerous. We have already had some situations where we have found employees in the middle of fields, cornfields, lost, and not sure why. And this was many kilometers from there, and this was another family member's farm. So we don't have to wait for this to open to see the consequences. We are already seeing the consequences. So this is all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, I'll ask Mr. Ballenegger to address, please.
Yes, let me, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, excellent. And I'll just start the video.
Hi there, welcome.
Mr. Mayor and Mrs. Deputy Mayor and councillors and everyone, good evening and happy Women's Day. It's I have no words to express what I'm hearing. It is a big surprise, and I will try to address each of those points. Before I do so, I'd like to insist on the fact that we experienced, when we got here 5.5 years ago, we experienced an absolutely wonderful welcome in Alexandria. And as much as from our neighbor, the Macphersons, and whom we actually admire. We've had never any issue, I thought, until today. So I'd like to preserve this. And if people are scared or feel it's not right, well, we'll address each of those points. Now, you might have to recenter me. I'll try. I've taken a few notes. I'll start on the top of the list. And I've tried to, since I realized that there was an issue last Sunday a week ago, I tried to invite the neighbors to discuss, to express those concerns. So I'm not super well prepared because until tonight, I didn't know what concerns they were. So there is one about insects eating your cucumber. Rose, I'm sorry. Yes, we've had insects. It has a different name. Huh? Yeah, it's not the tent caterpillar. It's another one, which is quite common in this area, and it's not the cucumber beetle that you experience. So if you feel that it has something to do, you know, we're here. If you feel it has something to do with what we're doing, we'll be here. For insects and moth and other things that could be related to our year, it is true that the materials are indeed natural. This is a pride that we're taking. So since we're using moth, since we're using wool, yes, we've had indeed a moth issue, and I crossed the field and asked Randy about it, see if he had any idea, because he's from here. He knows we had crickets this year. The year prior were flies, and as he explained to me, things changed. So all our containers are actually fumigated. They're controlled by Canada Customs and very closely, because it is indeed coming from afar. So we have fumigation certificates and sanitary certificates, and pretty much every one of those containers are checked precisely because of that. And of course, it is a concern. So that's why they are putting so stringent checks on yurts. Now, so that's the moth, the thing. I believe it was also one of Yves Massy's questions, and I hope I answered it there. Now, when it comes to our intentions, here, I'd like to actually briefly apologize, because I realize now what I thought was just simple and actually clear in my head was definitely not super well presented. I apologize in particular to our neighbors, the McPhersons, for not having crossed that fence, the field, and really explain. I thought we were on the same page. I thought they saw what was going on. We talked about a pond and a few things, and sincere apologies if this was misunderstood. You know, that field can be crossed in both ways, and I hope we'll be able to do so in the future. It is certainly not my intention to create a campground. As Jacob says, yes, it is great. It is great indeed. Yurts are 3,000 years old, and they're new to Canada. In a way, it's a big wave that goes along other things. You will see other cabins and stuff. There's this need for people to go back to simpler things, and this is also the clientele that we're aiming at, and that was this idea with this campground. Shit, sorry, I said campground. It's not a campground. So. So we're living there, not full time. I mean, here in Ottawa, when my daughter, then I go back to the farm. But I just love Alexandria. I want to be quiet there, and I totally understand our neighbors' fear. There's no doubt. I understand this big Swiss guy comes with 8 yurts and wants to open a bar. Well, I could have explained that actually this is not the intention. We have indeed. We've been permitted 1 yurt. This was kind of a test to try 1 yurt. We have more yurts on the land. Right now we have 4. We usually had 3. It's varying and they move. That's why the pictures you saw, they're nomadic dwellings. We move them. So why do we have that many yurts? We have the one that we're using primarily for bed and breakfast, and I've heard that it was believed we're using 2. We're actually using 2, but not at the same time. Because of COVID, we're moving 1 so that 1 yurt remains unused, and then we can use the other one. Sometimes we sleep in 1. Yes, we do. So then we have different size yurts so we can show to our customers what those yurts are. And we've just put,
Dimensions.
and the dimensions, yes, the dimensions, we set them up. And this is how we came to the idea of renting them out, because we thought, well, it's beautiful, and we invite you to come. And I believe some of you here have seen them, as well as our neighbors whom we invited. I mean, the Macphersons and the Massey. I'm sorry to the other ones if you haven't. I'd like to extend this invitation. So we thought, well, the experience is fabulous, and what a great opportunity to bring people on the land. You're talking about agricultural. Of course, I respect it. Of course, you know, I'm the newcomer here. I've been here only 5.5 years. I am the new one. I tried to make myself small, and I believe I crossed that field a few times to ask you, Randy, if we were making noise, if we were any nuisance, and the answer was constantly, all is fine. There's no, you're on your land. You do whatever you want. So of course, well, you know, I thought, you know, let's continue. So my idea was, since we had those 3 yurts on the land, well, let's rent them. Let's rent the 3 of them, because we've had so much success, and this has been going on. We really started renting them steadily in August, but now we've been booked every weekend, and sometimes, and now often in the weeks as well. And we're aiming at couples. We've had a few families, but people that basically want peace. And the yurt appeals for peace. And if there was nuisance, I would have, you know, loved to hear about it, and we would have implemented something. And here, if we do pursue with this amendment, I'm hoping that we can discuss and see what would make this. The amount of yurts, absolutely open. Is it only 3 that you'd like? Well, we'll go down to 3. We're not bound to this. We just thought it was a great opportunity, because people come to the country this way, and they love it, and they appreciate the beauty, and they, for that matter, they understand the work. And we tell them, we're next to a farm. There might be noise. This is what it is, and everyone is fabulously understanding. So, and I did ask the question to Jacob and Mrs. Olewska, and asked, so how many yurts? Because I don't want to go through a zoning amendment every other month. So I thought, okay, if we could rent 3 now, maybe you go up to 4, 5. I'll ask for 8, so this way we can put other yurts. So I don't have to go and ask every time, because we're hoping to maybe be able to host a yoga retreat at some point. So what happens? Well, we'd have to put a larger yurt for a week, and a couple more yurts. If this is not a good idea, I'm absolutely open. I just want it to work. And if the Macphersons feel it is a danger, and if we don't come to an agreement, well, I guess we'll have to abandon that project. But I really would like to pursue, because I think there is value. There is value for everyone, and if I had known, I would have maybe invited more people from township that have been in those yurts, or that benefit from this business that we've started here. And I just didn't think it was such an extreme. So I'd like also to comment on the bar. This is also a little bit of a misunderstanding. It is true, on this map, and we've improved the map, it's still written bar kitchen. And the reason is, we have a staff room that's in our house at the moment. And we have this kitchen alley, and I know, Lynn, you've seen it, and I believe if you have, and this is where we have our staff meeting, but it's our house. So we thought, okay, now that we've grown, let's do a kitchen so people can heat a dinner, and let's put this alley. But we don't want to open a bar. We just want to have a place to have our staff meeting, that maybe guests can have their breakfast or something, because we're not allowed to have cooking facilities in the yurt. So I'm happy to word that differently, but there's a big misunderstanding, and really, this is I believe I've heard the word Mongolian motel. No, it's not. It's not a campground. And if we have to, I don't know. One of the suggestions we thought maybe just keep it for couples. We're fine with it. We're not accepting animals just to. But you know, those things we're open to develop. So I think this, hopefully, I'll shut up and I'll let, if there's any other questions. Somehow I'd like, if the neighbors are completely opposed, well, we might have to just submit to whatever decision of the council. Otherwise, I'd like to offer a discussion if that's an option. So
okay,
that's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for your comments. Okay, I'm going to move over to members of council. Do you have any questions or comments as we move forward here? Deputy Mayor Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a question and then a comment. My question is what does the MDS 1 study, what potential outcome does it have for this application?
Yeah, so the MDS1 will definitely check into that. MDS1 would be a separation that a newly, like you apply an MDS1 when you want to create a new residential lot. So it gives you a setback from an existing livestock facility to where that residential building can be, according to what's in the barn, how big it is, what's the actual farming practice that's going on there. It gives you an actual distance, like a setback to that. So if we decide to apply that, it's really, the MDS is applied for smell nuisance only. So it's a setback that's created from the existing livestock facility to normally a newly created lot, but you also apply it when someone wants to build on a lot and is within that setback. So for example, if the lot is existing, like in Mr. Bellenegger's case, as mentioned before, the MDS1 was not applied when the original when Mr. Bellenegger's property was severed off, because the house was existing and the livestock facility was existing. So even if you create a lot, you do not create a new problem. Both buildings are there, so the smell is the same regardless if there's a property line or not. If you want to build a new house on an existing property and it's too close to a livestock facility, you apply that to ensure that it's at least as far as you can to avoid any nuisance complaints and smell nuisance and smell complaints. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So what would, because the properties are very close, assuming that it didn't meet the required setback, what implications would that have for the application?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'll have to verify and confirm that we can actually apply the MDS1. I don't have the document with me, but I'll definitely check into, do we apply it to this? And if, let's say, the entire property would be in the required setback, well, in this case, they're allowed to build there. They're allowed to do whatever they want. But normally, this is for a single family dwelling unit, which the yurts are not. So I'll have to check into that definitely. Yeah.
So Jacob, I can add, so MDS guideline number 35 applies to tourism and accommodation uses. So that is why it would apply in this case.
Okay, there. So we'd have to apply the setback from the yurts, I guess, we'll have to check into what's considered here the tourist attraction? Is it the whole property, or it's only the building, the yurt itself, or is it the pond, or is it the bathroom? So yeah, we'll definitely have to check into the NDS one. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you. That's helpful. I would just like to briefly make a comment about this. I feel the situation is highly unfortunate. As Eve pointed to, I don't think that he was intentionally trying to deceive anybody or annoy his neighbors. However, I think the location issue is real and needs to be discussed. But I would like to address the value of what Eve Bellenaker is trying to do here. The economic development value of what he is trying to do is real, and it's very entrepreneurial, and because of that, I think his ideas should be applauded. Whether or not he's going to be able to do his dream on that location remains to be seen, obviously. But I do think that these ideas have value, and I also believe that the members of the residents, the surrounding residents, also have valuable concerns as well.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and I'll echo your comments. I truly believe that this is a great idea. It's agritourism at its best. I think we're going to draw people into North Glengarry. I would love to see this go ahead at that location, but I just don't think it's the right place to have it. I would hope that we could work with Mr. Ballenager to find somewhere else to put this, because I really think it would be a gem for North Glengarry. I just unfortunately I feel that the neighbors have some valid concerns. And again, I don't think Mr. Ballenager intentionally meant for this to happen. It's quite obvious. I feel his heartfelt comments, and I feel bad because it is a great idea, and I'm hoping that we're able to do it somewhere else. So I had Councillor Wensing, then Councillor Massey.
Yeah, I agree with what the mayor and deputy mayor have said. And I think because NERTs are something new to us, that obviously there's a lot we need to learn and clarify around these kinds of requests coming forward to council. So, the yurt, it's a great idea, a great way to promote our area, but not in the agricultural area that they currently exist in.
Thank you. Councillor Massey.
Yeah, I'd like to echo your comment, Mr. Mayor, and Karma's comment also. It's a really great idea, Mr. Ballenager. Wish I had thought of that before, but it's another thing. But the place is it's completely wrong for it. To Jamie's comment, we do have the township. I'm just throwing out an idea there. The township owns hundreds and hundreds of acres around this beautiful township, and also we do have some room at the park, even in town in Alexandria. That could really draw people, and it's a very good idea. But we do have, on top of everything else that we talk about, the tents and the bar and everything, we have to respect the fact that the McPherson family live right over the fence. I believe, I was often there, because this being an old family farm that I basically was raised on, the distance is it's very, very minimal. And the McPherson have I believe, retired from the dairy business, but their quality of life, we cannot forget that their quality of life will be impacted greatly by this. And it's not because of the project, it's just the fact that there'll be people talking late at night or whatever. So we have to, just on that fact alone, it's I don't think I'm completely against it. And also and not to make matters worse here, but on Mrs. Hamilton, a question about the exception for one yurt only. I think we should, like you said, Jamie, maybe tomorrow we'll have a discussion on that and maybe try to bring it down to what we had put the exception on, just for one yurt, so that we. But again, great idea, Mr. Badenegger. Very great idea, and I'm sure we can try to find you some land somewhere that you could do it. It would probably be much better for everybody's sake on that. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Councillor Handling, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My personal thoughts on this is I think we need to wait until we have more information from staff on this before we make, at least before I'm making up my mind on this or whatever. I need some more information, and I think we've discovered tonight that we don't. There's a bit of there's some gray areas here that we've got to sort of navigate through, being campsites versus bed and breakfast versus those kinds of things. So I think we need to look at that and get some more information. So I'm waiting until we get some more information on this before I make a decision on this for sure.
Okay, thank you. And of course, this is just a public meeting, so there is no vote in this forum to hear. So Councillor Madden.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree wholeheartedly about the economic development aspect of this and the potential benefit. There is obviously some time here because there is no vote this evening. There's no decision to be made. I'm very fond of and a huge proponent of discussion. And there's an opportunity for neighbors here to sit down and understand the positions of the others. And I would encourage everybody who's on this call to do that and to take the opportunity to accept the invitation to get information and to have questions answered and to have concerns addressed. I'm fully sitting on a fence right now. I'm not coming down on one side or the other on this. I think there's an opportunity for neighbors to actually potentially benefit from this in terms of business opportunities, and that goes back to the economic development opportunities. So in the next couple of weeks, I would very much encourage everyone to sit down and have a discussion. It does not need to be facilitated by the municipality. Everybody here is grown and has the ability to take it upon themselves to do it. So,
okay, thank you for your comments. Any further comments, Councillor Noble?
So I, obviously being in the area, received a lot of phone calls, some more negative than others. Not everyone had any issue with Mr. Badenegger. Not everyone had an issue with the project. A lot of people had an issue with the size of the project. Some of the concerns with the bars and things, obviously, a bit of a misunderstanding with the package, not having a lot of details story-wise about the items on the map. And it's a long road, so there's a lot of neighbors. So, but then when I hear you say, Eve, that you have had people over, you haven't had any issues, I'm wondering if part of, as Mike suggested, the discussion amongst yourselves and the neighbors and our staff could be to maintain the 3 yurts, again, because of COVID, you're going to have to switch around a bit, to maintain 3 that are current, because that won't cause a lot of traffic, maybe that won't cause a lot of issues. You've got the 11 o'clock curfew anyway. Now that Jacob knows they all exist, maybe we'll be driving the roads a bit more to see what's going on. Maybe the neighbors can be on alert for that kind of stuff. And so that you don't have to keep coming back for zoning amendments. I wonder, again, because we are creating new policy, because these are new items, it's a new business to everybody, including the rule makers. If there's a way that we can start so that you can have the 3 yurts this summer, if there is no complaints, if there are no complaints, excuse my grammar, if there are no complaints, if there are no big issues, or there are little issues that everyone can agree on, then you don't, if there's a way to not have to come back for that zoning amendment, and then you can add maybe 1 or 2 yurts and something that justifies you being able to put in the swim pond, spending a little money and seeing if you can get some of that revenue back. I wonder if Jacob and Kasha, if there is some way to create a plan that could just about make everyone happy. I don't want to negate anyone's NIMBY or fears or blow the dream completely out of the water. So I wonder if there is a way to make everyone happy.
Jacob saying no.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, definitely, Councillor Noble. I think that we will have some discussions going forward in the next couple of weeks, as Councillor Madden alluded to. I think we'll be having definitely some discussions in the morning on what transpired tonight, and I think that we need to have our ducks in a row here at the township as well. Just because I'm sure this isn't going to be the last of what we're seeing. So I think we need to be prepared. And again, this was just a public meeting to receive public comments. So I would first off just like to thank all the members of the public for coming up tonight and giving your comments, and to Mr. Ballenegger for coming here. And as I said before, I can definitely see the passion in your voice, and I very much appreciate that, especially someone that's trying to do something in North Glengarry. We're always looking for great ideas, so I'm proud that you did choose North Glengarry, but we're going to need to do some work here and try and come up with a compromise or something that will work for everyone. So again, thank you to everyone for coming tonight for the public meeting. If there's no further comments from members of council, I am going to adjourn the meeting, and we'll move into the council meeting that was supposed to start 1 hour ago. So any further comments or questions? Seeing none, I have a motion moved by Councillor Massey, seconded by Councillor Manley. There being no further business to discuss, the public meeting was adjourned at 8:01 p.m. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Okay, we will take 2 minutes bathroom break, and we will be right back to the meeting. Okay. Okay, I'm going to call the council meeting to order. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof? Seeing none, motion to accept the agenda. I have a motion moved by Deputy Mayor Williams, seconded by Councillor Massey, that the Council of the Township of North Glengarry accepts the agenda of the regular meeting of council on Monday, March 8th, 2021. Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion is carried. Adoption of the previous minutes. I have a motion moved by Councillor Massey, seconded by Councillor Noble, that the minutes of the following meetings be adopted as circulated. Regular meeting of council, February 22nd, 2021. Special joint meeting with Township of South Glengarry, February 25th, 2021. Any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor? There are none opposed. Motion is carried. Moving on to staff reports. I have a motion moved by Councillor Noble, seconded by Councillor Manley, that the Council of the Township of North Glengarry received and reviewed the final study recommendations for the Main Street County Road 34 improvements environmental assessment, and that Council endorses the study recommendation and supports it being publicly advertised for the formal 30-day public review period. Okay, so welcome, Sarah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is just a council resolution to support what council received at the last council meeting for the environmental assessment for the County Road 34 work that should be done over the next couple of years. So this is just the support resolution for the engineer to include in the EA.
Okay, sounds good. Any questions from members of council? Councillor Manley.
I just wonder, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just wondering, Sarah, so then what's the procedure, what's the timeline on this? So we pass this tonight and then it goes out for public comments?
I believe it also needs to be presented at the county table as well. That's, I think, also a step, Councillor Manley, and then there's the public consultation portion, and then it'll be submitted to EA. So
and so with that public consultation, is there a possibility there could be changes still?
I don't believe so. We did quite a bit of community involvement with the EA, and like we did a lot of community consultation for it. So I don't anticipate any issues. But
Yeah.
certainly we're in contact with the county and the county engineers to make sure that we can sort of be in contact with any specific questions that any of the residents may have.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. There are none opposed. Okay, support letter for EORN Ultra Fast Gig Internet Project. I have a motion moved by Councillor Wensing, seconded by Councillor Massey, that council authorizes the mayor to sign a letter of support for the Eastern Ontario Regional Network proposal for the Ultra Fast Gig Internet Project. Sarah?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is just a support letter that we'd like to send on behalf of North Glengarry to the EORN in support of their project for the Ultra Fast Gig project. So we received a letter from the CAO of the county just letting us know about the project. It was included in any information I had was included in the package. So I certainly don't know any specific details. I know certainly the mayor May and Deputy Mayor Williams also sitting on the county council. But certainly I think it's important for us to support this project. So it would be good to send the letter along.
Perfect. Thank you. Questions or comments? Councillor Madden.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I won't go on a long diatribe. If we could include in that letter that we encourage them to look at all technologies, not necessarily just fiber. I have a concern that by the time this kind of project would come to fruition, we might be outdated. So yeah, I very much agree and support that this should happen and it needs to get to upper levels of government. But that point I would like to have included, please.
Okay.
Jeez, I absolutely agree with you. From the beginning of that statement to the end, you became outdated. So I definitely see it. So just kidding.
Just like that.
Okay, any further discussion on this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. There are none opposed. Okay, moving on to 2021 community grants. I have a motion moved by Councillor Manley, seconded by Councillor Madden, that the Council of the for the Township of North Glengarry receives staff report number CS 2021-06, and that Council approves the following grants under the Community Grant Program funding in the 2021 municipal budget. Centre Lahil Center, $3,500. Dalkeith Historical Society, $2,000. Friends of the Glengarry Trails, $3,500. Glengarry Artists Collective, $3,235, and in kind of $765. Glengarry Historical Society, $2,500. Maxwell Chamber of Commerce, $3,500. Musical Celebration Musical MCM Festival, $3,500, and Save the Grotto, $2,000 for a total of $23,735. Welcome, Ann.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At the last Arts, Culture, Heritage Committee meeting, the members reviewed 8 applications that were received for this community grant. And the committee members deemed that all of the applications met the conditions of the funding. And therefore, we're recommending that council approve the funding for these projects. The total comes out to $23,735. Council did approve $25,000 as part of the 2021 budget. So the funds are available to support all of these projects. So therefore, we're asking council to approve this amount for these projects. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. I have a couple of comments I'd like to make quickly. I have no issues with the with what's been chosen, and they're all worthy festivals or applications. I would like to see us, though, in the future, perhaps before the end of this term, is for us to review the community grant program. I do have issues just with the fact that it seems to be the same proponents every year getting the money. I would prefer to see this as seed money as opposed to monies that are, if this is going to be the case, then like we did with the Pioneer Museum and these kinds of places, we just put them in regular funding and we funded them. I would prefer us to look at something just a little bit different than what we have, only for the sake that I think, sometimes I think people may get intimidated putting in, knowing that a lot of these organizations are a lot bigger and more established. So just my 2 cents. I know Councillor Massey had your hand up, and I'll give Councillor Manley the opportunity. I'm sure he wants to answer me. So thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Manley.
Actually, I want to agree with you, Mr. Mayor.
Whoa. Yeah, go ahead.
That was actually discussed at the Arts, Culture, and Heritage meeting, and that was brought up that we may need to do a review and look at this because some of us have that same concern. And the intent, you're right. The intent of the program was for seed money. And so we talked about whether, if they maybe something like if they get a grant 2 years in a row, then they have to take a year off, and they're not eligible for a grant the following year. So just so we break it up a little bit, but it is on the agenda, I think, and I think we said May that's going to come back as a review. The committee's going to review that in May, I believe, or whatever. So that's on the agenda, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, and I look forward to getting something back from the Arts, Culture, and Heritage Committee. I mean, you guys work hard on this stuff. I know the Deputy Mayor and yourself have worked hard on getting us to that point that, everything fits into that box. Maybe it's just time that we take a look at it. And again, like your suggestion, maybe it's 2 years on and you have to take a year off. But anyways, I look forward to those comments. Councillor Massey.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had the same question too, because I remember when we did set up this community grant a few years ago, that was one of the guidelines that the same organization could not reapply year after year after year. I don't know if that was taken out or not, but all these festivals, like you said, and organizations are very worthy of this money, but it's just to echo your comments on to get a little bit more people involved and start new things too, it would be good. But I had another question too, and maybe you can answer me. was there any, because of COVID last year, was there any money that was not spent and what did we do with that money? Did we put it in reserve or can we not, is that money left from last year?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, actually only about $6,000 of funding was spent and the monies were returned to the operating budget. So they were not put in reserves. We don't do that with the operating funds. And if I may comment, I think the fact that we were in a COVID situation last year and a lot of these projects got postponed is the reason why we're seeing a lot of the same organizations applying for these funds again this year, though they have morphed their program to accommodate social distancing guidelines because of COVID. So I do realize that we see a lot of those organizations, but I think it's even more exceptional that we're seeing almost like duplications of the projects from last year because they didn't occur.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Manley.
Yeah, just a quick follow up on that to Councillor Massey. So yeah, there was nothing ever in the procedure that said they couldn't apply. It said that priority would be given to first-time applicants. But when you look at this list, there were no first-time applicants. So maybe we have to, you're right. Maybe that's something in the policy that needs to be looked at as well. So we'll look at that.
Great. Perfect. Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Yes, Councillor Noble.
I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I can't hear you. Can you please speak up? You might have hit your mute or something. Your volume is really low.
Yeah, it is.
And me?
I want to hear what you say.
Wow, that's something new. Can you hear me now?
Better.
Okay, I'll start talking louder. I'm not sure what's going on. Okay, thank you. Any further questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor of the motion? There are none opposed. Motion is carried. Thank you. Extension request for signage CIP application 19506 County Road 43. I have a motion moved by Councillor Madden, seconded by Councillor Wensing. The council approves a 6-month extension from March 8th, 2021 to September 6th, 2021 for Program C Commercial Signage Grant, representing a matching grant of 50% up to a maximum of $1,518.03 for the Community Improvement Plan project located at 19506 County Road 43, Alexandria, KMAC Electric. Anne.
So thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is more a housekeeping item. KMAC got delayed in the installation of their sign. We know that COVID has impacted a lot of the suppliers this year. So they're hoping to have their sign up actually by June. I was speaking with them recently and they say everything is ready to go. But we wanted to make sure that if there was any delay that they had the time to get the sign up before the fall. So that's why we're asking for an extension until September 6, 2021. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, great. Thank you. Are there any further questions or comments on this? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. There are none opposed. Thank you, Anne.
Thank you.
We have items under the consent agenda. I have a motion moved by Councillor Wensing, seconded by Deputy Mayor Williams, that the Council of the Township of North Glengarry receives the items from the consent agenda for information purposes only. Any discussion on the consent agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. There are none opposed. Okay, and notice of motion. Our next regular public meeting of council is Monday, March 22nd, 2021 at 7 p.m. And we have in-camera session, in closed session. So I'd just like to thank all members of council and staff for attending tonight. And thank you to everyone that participated in our public meetings. It's nice to see that people are interested. And it's thank everyone that watched us on Facebook tonight. So we'll see you in the next couple weeks and have a great week. Thank you.
And happy Women's Day.
Happy International Women's Day. Thank you, Brenda. See you later.